Thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We'll be covering Brazil's shocking loss to Paraguay. Discuss Colombia being able to defeat Argentina in the Copa America Final rematch from this past summer. We'll discuss another disappointing performance for the U.S. men's national team as they drew with New Zealand. Didn't really get to that. With all the news regarding Pochettino being official, him being officially announced, we didn't really touch on that performance, so we'll discuss that today. We'll discuss Deco revealing why Barcelona did not sign Nico Williams, and make sure you stick around for the end of the show where I'll be giving you my reactions to some of the top soccer headlines going on in the soccer world. If you have a question during the show, we want to hear your input is a big part of what makes this show great, and we thrive in your energy and insights. So whether it's a quick comment, a thoughtful question, or an opinion you just have to share, please don't hesitate to drop it in the chat. Now, if you want to make absolutely sure your message stands out and gets featured on the show, there's a very easy way to do that. Just use the super chat feature. Click the $ at the bottom of the chat box to send in your super chat. This guarantees that your message gets on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead, let us know what you're thinking. Hit that super chat button, and let's keep this show as interactive and exciting as possible. And if you prefer, you can also go to the GSMCpodcast.net to tip, donate, and leave a comment or question there. We couldn't do what we do without your amazing support, and we're so thankful to have you as part of our community. We have to start off though. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Man, oh man. You saw a little bit of my disappointment yesterday when I was discussing this on the reactions to the top headlines on the last segment of the show. The reaction I always do. Yeah, it's very, very frustrating here seeing what's going on with Brazil. Obviously, I was in a state of shock, sort of reporting there yesterday. I didn't get to watch the game live because I had something else that I was dealing with at that matter. But this morning I was able to sort of rewatch the mediocrity, and it's mediocrity. It's mediocrity there from the Brazilian national team. No real cutting edge, no real Brazilian spirits, no Jogo Bonito within this team. Lifeless, clueless, gutless team for those individuals who don't have the quality of the players in the Brazilian. Okay, look, actually, I'll phrase that fast. I think the players played with spirit and they tried. The quality is just not there. The intensity is not there. You saw in periods of the game we're down 1-0 and you need, it would the camera would spring to Dorviel Jr. trying to push them on, and it was just like, why, you're down 1-0. Why is the manager on the sideline needed to sort of push you on to get you, to press higher up, to start, putting more pressure on the Paraguayan players? The Paraguayan national team, they were comfortable in this game. There were periods in this game that they were under no type of pressure, and there was a throughout the entire game they never thought they were concede. Now, Brazil did have 71% possession, but a lot of the possession was not in dangerous areas that can really threaten Paraguay. It was a lot of sideways and backwards, no real forward playing creativity, line breaking balls. The few times that they did try to go forward, it was easily sniffed out by the Paraguayan defense. And what that early goal did for Paraguay in the 20th minute is allowed them to sit back, observe, allow Brazil to have the ball, and just make it really, really difficult for Brazil to break them down. In Brazil, they just did not have the quality to break down the Paraguayans at the in Asuncion. And Paraguay, I mean, they were comfortable in this game. You compare it to what we saw when Brazil took on Paraguay at the Copa America. Now, obviously, that's on a neutral side. There's a little bit difference. Brazil, they dominated. They dominated Paraguay that game. That was Brazil's best game of the Copa America. This was just completely lackluster, and this is their fourth defeat in their last 5 World Cup qualifiers. Ladies and gentlemen, the Brazilian national team has lost more games through 8 games, have lost more games than they've won. Through 8 games, they have 3 wins, 1 draw, and 4 losses. That is abysmal, and they find themselves currently 5th place in CONCACAF. Slightly ahead of Venezuela just based on goal difference. And they find themselves a point away from being potentially 8th. Ladies and gentlemen, it is panic time if you are a fan of this Brazilian national team. This team lacks the world-class ability. Now, look, Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo, they're looked at as some of the top players in the world, and they play for Real Madrid, and they're part of a Real Madrid team that competes at the highest level in La Liga and Champions League, and they play really, really well, and they're very clutch for their club. For their national team, they're both disgraces. Rafinha, you're going to discuss about the Ballon d'Or and how you deserve to be a nominee. Okay. Where is it on the pitch? Why are you talking? Why don't you let your game speak for yourself? Vinicius Jr., him on a Brazil shirt. An absolute disgrace. An absolute disgrace. Him in a Brazilian shirt is beyond disgraceful. I'm talking about a Vinicius Jr. that's looked as one of the best players in the world, and there was, right now he's seen as maybe the best player in the world. When he puts on a Brazilian jersey, nowhere near that player. Nowhere near that player. There was a few times he tried to stretch the defense, but every time he ran into double teams, and he didn't look like anything was coming from him. He came out with some comments saying he received the ball late. What a load of he receives the ball later than usual on the national team. What a load of BS and excuse making. If that is the case, address it with your teammates. Address it with the manager. I don't want to hear these excuses from Vinicius Jr. His performances for Brazil is not good enough. This is now 36 games. 36 or 35 games. And he only has 5 goals. A goal every 5 games. You compare that to for Real Madrid, where he has 50 goals in 180 appearances. Which is a goal in less than every... which is a goal in about, a little bit, not 3 games, but about 3.5 games. A goal in about 3.5. This is just the reality we find ourselves in with Vinicius Jr. He doesn't perform anywhere near the levels that he performs for Real Madrid. He doesn't perform for Barcelona. For Brazil. I keep saying Barcelona. For Brazil. Is the badge too heavy for him? Is that Seleção badge just the pressure too much of leading this team? Also, another thing we discussed about Rodrigo in his comments about Neymar being needed for Brazil to win the World Cup in 26, which, this window proves even more. Brazil, the leading assist maker in CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers through 8 games is Neymar. Neymar tore his ACL back in October 2023 against Uruguay, actually. That Uruguay game was his was only their fourth game of qualifiers. Yeah, that was their fourth game of qualifiers. They're now double that way in. Neymar has played 4 games, half the amount of games that all the other teams have played. And he is still the leading Colombia World Cup qualifiers in assists. And keep in mind, he played 4 games, but he got injured mid-game in that fourth game. So it's really 3 and some change. That's how much importance Neymar provides for this Brazilian team. And when you look at the players in the past, the Romarios, the Peles, the Rivaldos, the Ronaldinhos, the Ronaldo Nazarios, the only player that Brazil has had, the Kakas as well, the only player that Brazil has had for the past decade or so that can fit amongst that company is Neymar. He is by far the most creative player that they have. He is their most technical player, and he is the only player that this current Brazilian team has. And yes, I know he's injured, and we don't know what he's going to be like when he comes back. That's just the given reality with these sort of injuries at the age he's at right now. But Neymar has been the only player that's proven that the badge doesn't weigh too heavy on him, that his performances still are at the highest level when he's playing for his country, going back to his days being a 21, 22-year-old, being asked to lead his country at a home World Cup with all the pressure on him, being I believe it was age 22 that World Cup. It's really a sad affairs we have. Dorvel Jr., I believe before the game, he said, Brazil, they're going to be at the World Cup final. I guarantee it in 2026. Will he be there by 2026? Will Brazil get past the round of 16 at that World Cup, let alone a quarterfinal? Not the way this team is looking right now. Now, look, I don't think they're in jeopardy of missing the World Cup, even with how horrible of a start that they've had. They're still, despite how horrible of a start that they have, they'd still have a guaranteed spot in the World Cup if it ended today. With 6 teams automatically getting in, and then the 7th team being sort of qualifier, being a interconfederation playoff. Now, in years past, this is because of the expanded 48 World Cup team. But in years past, with the 32 World Cup team format, in which only 4 teams get a guaranteed spot, and the 5th place team has to play an interconfederation playoff, the Brazilian national team find themselves in a spot right now that if the Colombia World Cup qualifiers went to end today, they'd be in the interconfederation cup playoff. But that's not the case that we find ourselves in. We find ourselves in the time where it's a 48-team World Cup. And let's be for real, they're not. I don't believe they're in any sort of jeopardy to miss the World Cup. Their next 2 games are against Chile and Peru, the 2 teams bottom out of the CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers, the 2 worst teams in CONMEBOL. Probably as we speak, when you look at the fact that Bolivia were able to get 6 points in this past international window, which is a great window for them. Chile with 5 points, Peru was 3. Look, I think that's the opportunity for Brazil to sort of make a return. Will Neymar be available for that? We don't know. That remains to be seen. He's just gonna be returning at Al Hilal very recently. But it's not a good moment in Brazilian football. It's really not, and some major changes need to come. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss Colombia being able to defeat Argentina in a Copa America Final rematch.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we discussed Brazil's shocking loss to Paraguay. We move on to discuss Colombia defeating Argentina in a Copa America Final rematch. Look, that was let's pull it up. Let's pull up the statistics of the game. Great game for Colombia, getting to play this game at the Barranquilla Stadium. The stadium in Barranquilla, the Estadio Metropolitano in Barranquilla, filled with 48,000 Colombians. You saw a lot of yellow there, and there was a very, very good Colombo game. Some real quality, some real dedication, desire, passion, energy, and some good football overall being played. And I enjoyed watching the game. I really enjoyed watching the game. I thought there was good. It had everything in this sort of game. You had mistakes in bad areas. You had good movements. You had physicality. You had huge desire, and it was great to watch. It really was a great to watch. Let's pull up the statistics of the game, actually. So, Colombia won the game 2-1 through goal from Yerson Mosquera, the Wolves center half, and then James Rodriguez getting that penalty in the 60th minute. Nicolas Gonzalez did equalize, though, before that James penalty. And, the statistics show 9 shots for Colombia to 13 for Argentina. But despite Argentina having a numerical advantage in terms of shot, it was Colombia that had the advantage in terms of shots on target with 5 compared to 1. 47% possession for Colombia to 53% possession for Argentina. Now, this game was played around 3:30 or so local time in Colombia. Well, it was played, actually, I don't know local time exactly. It was played 3:30 in my time. I don't know exactly what time, but early in the day. And Lionel Scaloni had some thoughts on that entering before the game, saying it's not really right that we're playing at this time, but it basically saying, but it is what it is. In my opinion, if you are the home team, you have every right to play whenever you want. Create as much of an advantage as you deem that you can. That's the whole point of being a home team. You take advantage of the atmosphere. You take advantage of the weather, in which it was a very, very hot afternoon, which benefited the Colombian players because the Argentinians, with both teams playing in the heat, the Colombians have the fans pushing them on to keep going. You're in a stadium filled with 40,000 people. You're extremely hot, and they're all against you. It makes it even worse. It makes that even worse just to take that, just to bump up the energy levels to match Colombia. And Colombia were able to get the win. They played some good football. I thought Argentina, though, did have a few moments where, had a few moments that they really could have took advantage of. They was just a little sloppy, couldn't get the final touch right on one, couldn't get the final ball right. Although they only had one shot on target, they had some really, really good opportunities. They took advantage also early on before the goal from Yersin Mosquera. They were able to get a miscontrol from Vargas. They were able to take the ball out of Vargas, and then I forgot exactly who it was, but it was just wide. It might have been Julian Alvarez. I don't know exactly, but no, Argentina, they had their opportunities. Rodrigo de Paul also, he had a strike that he tested Vargas on, but it was Colombia that were able to take the early lead. As I said, I keep saying his name wrong, but Yersin Mosquera on the back post on a ball. By the way, James had 1 assist, 1 goal. The penalty he scored, and he had the assist. Lovely lofted ball from him. We know the quality James Rodriguez has as a number 10. Just great ability, and he was able to play in a brilliant ball to Mosquera, who essentially, bodied, dunked on, posterized Lisandro Martinez, which Yersin Mosquera is 6'2". I know Lisandro Martinez has experience going up against, bigger center forwards, and he does a good job in the physical battle as well. But why put Lisandro in a position on a set piece to be defending someone who's... what do y'all give Lisandro Martinez? He's listed as 5'9". I think he's really 5'8", to be honest. I've seen him next to someone who is 5'8", and in fact, Tagliafico is listed 5'7". He doesn't seem that much taller than Tagliafico. They seem about the same height. But Lisandro Martinez, you got a guy like 5'8", 5'9", maybe. That's a 4 or 5 inch difference in height. That's a big difference. And yes, he can match up physically against bigger sort of players, but when you can protect them there, when you don't need to put him against a big tall center half, why put him in that position? And he just completely posterized Lisandro Martinez. Martinez didn't even have a chance, couldn't even really get off the ground. It wasn't anywhere near the picture at all. And it was just not. He couldn't even get on, couldn't even really track him, slow down his run. Just, not good defending from Lisandro at a point that you let him get past you, but at the same time, he wasn't going to be able to keep up with him, with his height. And then you had Argentina, who, and James, James had the goal and assist, but he also turned the ball over in a bad area on the pitch. And that's, you get the good and the bad and the ugly. And, he turned the ball over in the bad area on the pitch. Fernandez is able to get on the end, or not Fernandez, Nicolas Gonzalez is able to get on the end of it, and he's able to, slot it home right at the start of the second half, and they gave Argentina the equalizer, sort of out of nothing. But Colombia, they stood on, they hanged on, and then they were able to draw the penalty with the help of VAR, which is actually, the foul came around in the 52nd minute or so. With the combination of referee and delaying of the penalty and all that, the penalty was taken in the 59th minute. That's Colombia right there in a sentence. But James, he was able to get that second goal, second goal for Colombia to make it 2-1. And then Colombia had their opportunities to potentially make it a third. Couldn't really take advantage of it. There was a great chance that Lautaro Martinez had in the 83rd minute or so. Just couldn't get that ball out of his feet to get a strike at a goal. And it was that kind of day for Argentina. Despite having a few moments where they could really threaten Colombia, they just couldn't get that final ball off. And Colombia were able to get the victory. And I have to say, Colombia, under Nestor Lorenzo, are looking like a formidable outfit. They're looking like a team that's not only gonna go to the World Cup, and we know that they didn't qualify in the 2022 World Cup, but this is a team that's gonna go there and that's gonna compete, and that are gonna make a run at that World Cup, and that are gonna be a team that these top nations are gonna have to not fear. I don't think Spain will fear Colombia, but they'll be wary of Colombia. And Colombia did beat Spain, in Spain's lead up to the European Championship, I believe in about Marchish or so in London Stadium. In one of the later international windows close to the European Championships, Colombia did beat Spain in the London Stadium and the West Ham Stadium. Yes, it was a makeshift Spain team and it wasn't really their first 11, but it shows that Colombia has the ability to compete with those sort of teams, and I look forward to seeing more of Colombia as well. And as for Argentina, tough, difficult loss and difficult circumstances. But I thought Argentina played pretty well too, despite the circumstances. Just really lacked that that final play. But this game could have been a little bit different. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to yet another disappointing performance for the USMNT as they drew with New Zealand.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed Colombia's being able to get the victory over Argentina. We move on to react to another it seems like Brazil and United States of America are my two favorite national teams, or countries that I root for till the end. Brazil, just grew up a Brazil fan. My father was a Brazil fan, so it kind of came down the line, I guess. In the U.S., obviously, I'm American, born and bred, in the U.S. So, and it's been rough for both national teams in recent times. Obviously, the expectation for both national teams is quite different. But relatively, it's not been a great time for me as an international football fan. The U.S. had a disappointing Copa America as well, and then now this international window in which they lost to Canada and they drew with New Zealand. These are two teams that the U.S. should be better. The New Zealand one is incredible to me. New Zealand is not a team that has the quality to be able to keep up with America. Nowhere near. And the mistake defensively that we made later on to concede that goal, the mix-up amongst the back three or so, really it was between Um, let me pull that up real quick. I had it in my notes. It was really between Caleb Wiley, who's actually just moved to Europe, and Mark McKenzie. Mix up there between the two. It gets into the path of Ben Wayne, who honestly, that was a lovely chip. And yeah, it's the U.S. the U.S. draw with New Zealand. I say lose. It feels like a loss, but the big news out of that day was Pochettino coming in to the U.S. men's national team. That was the big news of the day, cause we all are very, very excited of that prospect. And the U.S. soccer in U.S. soccer fashion, they announced Pochettino 20 minutes before the start of this game, and and then this game happened. Poor result. Obviously, Vargas, Mickey. I said Mickey Vargas. Mickey Vargas being in, is not the he's an interim manager, so it's essentially like having a substitute teacher. When you had a substitute teacher, you don't really you sort of treat it as a free day. Maybe there's that to less aspect, of course, happening here. But it's just unacceptable. The lack of intensity in these two games, just the real weak mindset of the team. We saw Christian Pulisic with some strong comments after the game, saying, there's a real need of a culture change, and bringing in a guy like Pochettino will change that. But we'll get to that later. Strictly when it comes to this game, though, obviously that huge, massive mistake from Caleb Wiley and McKenzie led to the Ben Wayne goal in the 89th minute. That made it 1-1. Pulisic was the one that was able to get the goal in the 69th minute of the game. And obviously the U.S. are coming off their first home loss to Canada since 1957. And the Americans, they looked poor throughout the game. They're now on a four-game winless streak, and it's a rough time. It's a rough time. Now there was a lot of changes coming in and on, so it did affect the rhythm of the game. That's kind of how friendlies work. So I'm not taking a huge overall of it, but I will say Pulisic, when he did enter in the 57th minute, I thought he looked pretty good. He looked very, very lively. This is actually his 35th international goal. This puts him ahead of Brian McBride. That puts him 5th on the all-time leading goal scorer list for the U.S. men's national team. Keep in mind, Christian Pulisic is 25 years old. The build-up was good on that goal. It involved Chris Richards, McKenzie, Aiden Morris, De La Torre, Pepe, and Balogun. And by the way, I didn't like the setup that Mickey Vargas, he didn't help his cause too. The setup wasn't great. In my opinion, team lacked a little bit of balance there. The team lacked a little bit of balance there. He started off with Balogun, Haji Wright, and Pepe. Don't really understood what was going on. I can't be overly critical. Because, he is just the interim manager. I want to see Tillman in the squad. Well, Tillman, actually, I'm going to answer this comment. Tillman was actually in the squad. If you're talking about Malik Tillman, he came on to this game. I thought he looked okay. But Mickey Vargas didn't really set up this team to succeed. playing Pepe, Balogun, and Haji Wright. But again, it's not something we're gonna be hugely critical on because, well, that was his final game as the U.S. men's national team manager. Pepe did put the U.S. ahead in the 19th minute when he was able to toe poke the ball into the back of the net, but it was the VAR deemed that Pepe shoved Liberto Casas before the shot, and then the VAR intervened. Or no, it didn't actually go to VAR. The Honduran referee Sullivan Brown disallowed the goal after he talked to his assistant. But yeah, it's overall, just there's a culture issue. These players, there's not a winning mentality amongst this team. It's Nice Boy FC, and it's, Greg Berhalter, it's Friends FC, and there's no huge mentality amongst this team. And there's no fear factor that they have in terms of an authority that they fear, and there's no intensity in the way that they go about it. And then they come in moments in games where they need a little bit of mental toughness, and they completely fold and look abysmal. And that's what Pochettino, that's the biggest thing Pochettino needs to come. He needs to come and change this into a team that has a winning mentality, a winning culture, a mentally tough team. And then the tactics and the lineup choices and all that should come after. But the most important thing right now, initially, is there needs to be an overall in terms of the culture in the team. And Pulisic, Pulisic is someone that's, the captain of this team. He talked about it. He's saying the U.S. need a culture change, and let me just pull up his comments actually. This was after the 1-1 draw to New Zealand. This is after he said there's a lot of things that need to change, just the mentality and the culture of the group. I think we have the quality, but I know hopefully that's the first thing that he's going to want to change. Hopefully a culture that is willing to fight, that is willing to take risks, win. And this team needs to have a dedication, hard work. They need to all fear being potentially yanked. They all have a comfort level playing for this national team, in which when they play in these sort of difficult moments, they are mentally fragile and they're not able to, take it to the next step. I agree with everything what Pulisic had to say, and there needs to be a real kick up their backsides and to get these players on. And once the culture change happens, I think that is the start of something, of you building something. Because again, everybody talks about this generation, this golden generation, the quality of this team, of these individual players, but part of me is thinking, number one, this is not a golden generation because we've been crap. Number one. Number two, that's the main thing. Number two, is the quality of these players overrated? We talk about Gio Reyna. This is a Gio Reyna that hasn't really taken off on the club scene. Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, these are players haven't really took that next level. Tyler Adams a lot because of injury. Weston McKennie, I think he's been solid, but hasn't been great at Juventus. That's why it's led him to being in and out there. Balogun still hasn't really took that next level from that really good season he had last season. Pepe sort of same position. I think Haji Wright has been really good, but again, he's playing in a championship. Pulisic, yes, he's, the best we have to offer, but is also the quality of this team overrated? We don't have a goalkeeper, which is shocking to say. I never thought as a U.S. men's national team fan I'd say that. But we don't even have a goalkeeper at this point, a goalkeeper that we can trust game in, game out. We're having to experiment with players like Schulte last game, who didn't even have that great of an Olympic Games, and he's getting a shot. Yeah, I don't know. But with Pochettino coming in, it's all sunshine from here. I'm going to turn my frown upside down because I do believe that there's going to be a change And I do have optimism now with Pochettino coming in, though. There is huge optimism. There has to be. This is what we needed as fans, this sort of hiring. And I look forward to the October window. I believe we go away to Mexico in the second game of that window. Yes, we do go away to Mexico. And in the first game of the window, we take on Panama and Austin. So, I'm looking forward to it. I don't even look forward to friendlies, but now with the fact we have a real manager here, I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely. Short break here coming up, though. When we come back, we will discuss Deco revealing why Barcelona did not sign Nico Williams.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we discussed. Before the break, we discussed USMNT's disappointing result against New Zealand or performance. We move on to react to Deco revealing why Barcelona did not sign Nico Williams. He came out and he's shedding light on why the club did not sign Nico Williams after there was a publicly known pursuit over Nico Williams after that outstanding European championship he had. And he explained that basically there were other issues, or not other issues, but other bigger priorities for the team that influenced their decision not to sign Nico Williams. He was speaking on an interview with the Barca 1, and he said said the manager was the first to say that if we couldn't bring the level, we could continue with what we have. We reflect. We don't make hasty decisions. Speaking about okay, no, that has nothing to do with the Nico Williams thing. That was something else. But speaking of the Nico Williams situation, he said, "I'll tell you again. We're talking about level. Today we have Rafinha, Ferran, the return of Ansu, Lamine, and players like Fermin or Olmo who can play there. To bring someone in, they had to be of a very high level. With the signing of Dani Olmo, it gave you more options. It's not that we haven't spoken to players, but we had other priorities that have been decisive in not bringing in another winger." Look, hindsight is 2020. With especially when he talks about Rafinha. Rafinha came off to a really good start to the season, but entering the season, we didn't look at Rafinha in that sort of way, and the amazing thing about what he's saying here is in the summer he came out with comments, not him, but there was reports in the summer there were reports that the financial situation is the reason why Barcelona can't go for Nico Williams, which even then it confused me there because they were able to go after Dani Olmo, which is similar, it's a high transfer sort of player as well. But again, this also doesn't really make sense to me because was Dani Olmo the pressing need? Keep in mind, this is a Barcelona team that had Gundogan earlier on. When they made this signing, is when they decided to sort of push Gundogan the back door. But was Dani Olmo really a pressing need for this team? Think having Nico Williams on that left hand side opposite of Lamine Yamal, what they were able to do at the European Championship. I have to say, I don't know. I think maybe Deco was doing a little bit of cover up, sort of covering for the huge financial issues Barcelona has, because we know Joan Laporta, we know the situation when he came with Xavi, when he came out to be honest and told the truth. They want to hide any sort of financial issue they might have. They want to hide it as much as possible, and they want to, they want to make it, prove to the fans that there's no financial issues to the club, basically. And maybe Deco was sort of, saying this to, take away a highlight from those reports in the summer, saying it was the financial issues and sort of that. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm not an insider, and I like an insider to come out and really, really lay down the line on why Barcelona didn't go through with the Nico Williams deal. Because for me, that would seem like the perfect move for Barcelona, and I still will think that's a perfect move to Barcelona. It's a move that will probably happen. Barcelona, they always have the best in class. They always have like the best Spanish players, and when you have, and I think he would have fit exactly what Hansi Flick wanted to. How direct Hansi Flick is, how forward going he is, how much he relies on sort of the directness of players. Like a Nico Williams. You see what he's done at Bayern with players like Kingsley Coman, with players like Leroy Sané, with players like Serge Gnabry, players like Alphonso Davies, players that are very, very direct, that can get past the man and that can open up space for teammates. That's the sort of player that's perfect. And we see what Rafinha has been able to do so far, how much he's been able to thrive under Hansi Flick. Well, look, Nico Williams is, in my opinion, a better version of Rafinha and has more pace and is more vertical than Rafinha, and he plays on the left wing primarily, which is opposite of Lamine Yamal, who plays primarily on the right wing. I just thought it was a perfect. You saw how great they looked at the European Championship. I thought it was going to be perfect. Barcelona would sort of try to replicate the magic that Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams had for Spain. I think that would have got them closer to be able to compete with the craziness of the Champions League winners bringing in Mbappe with Real Madrid and Mbappe. I thought that would have allowed them to compete more. But again, so far Barcelona has looked really, really great, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They have looked really, really great. Dani Olmo looks like he's going to be a really, really good signing despite his injury. They just got past winning 7-0 against Valladolid. Rafinha did score a hat-trick playing on the left-hand side, which is interesting. After the game, he said, this game proved that we don't really need new signings, which is interesting coming from a man that, is like the number one priority, was not the number one priority, but, was the number one rumored player to sort of be replaced. And he's coming out with this sort of statement on a high horse, coming off a hat-trick sort of, a hat-trick performance. And yeah, it's really funny. It's really a funny thing to break down sort of these sort of financial issues Barcelona find themselves in. And who knows? I maybe that is the real reason, but I have a hard time believing it right now at this moment. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to some of the top soccer headlines going on in the soccer world. Before the break, we discussed Deco and his comments on Nico Williams. We move on to react to some of the top soccer headlines going on in the soccer world. And we start off with Mbappe. He has rejected a mediation in the sort of dispute that he has regarding 60 million euros with PSG, and he's not willing to compromise with PSG. Mbappe representatives actually met with PSG officials in Paris after Mbappe, who joined Real Madrid this summer on a free transfer, says PSG owe him 55 million euros. And in a statement to the AP, the Associated Press, Mbappe's representatives said the player asked the commission to take note of the non-payment of 3 months' salary and the last thirds of loyalty bonus. They said themselves to evaluate the eventuality of mediation was mentioned this morning. The statement read, "This possibility was rejected during the meeting by the player's representative, and mediation would be useless to record a lack of payment that will be sent from a simple analysis of the player's payslip." PSG, they said they were pleased with the 2-hour hearing that was at the commission that occurred on Wednesday, and they said in a statement that they remembered that Mbappe had formally made clear, repeated public and private commitments that must be respected, having been afforded unprecedented benefits by the clubs over 7 fantastic years in PSG. PSG, they say that they don't owe money to Mbappe under an agreement that Mbappe was sidelined ahead of the 23-24 season because of his decision not to extend his contract with PSG. But the player argues, saying that he would relinquish bonus over his reintegration into the team. PSG said that the legal commission recommended mediation between the parties, which PSG said they've been looking for months. PSG spokesperson said the commission has now invited the player to consider the mediation process. Mbappe's representatives didn't say what action they will now take with what's currently going on in this situation, but it's very likely that the case is going to be settled in a court. We know Mbappe's relationship with PSG was heated tension. We know the tension between him and Nasser Al-Khelaifi, and we know Mbappe was also frustrated because there were certain players that they promised to sign but they didn't keep, and then PSG were agitated by Mbappe because they offered him the most lucrative contract in PSG history when he signed the deal in 2022, and then when he signed the deal, he was paraded in front of a lot of fans, and he was holding up a jersey that had the year 2025 on it. But Mbappe was really annoyed because the contract was only until 2024 with an option to extend it for an extra year. And yeah, it's a lot of back and forth, a lot of pettiness from both sides. But it remains to be seen. It really remains to be seen. Emiliano Martinez, he was accused of slapping a cameraman. A TV cameraman caught Argentina goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez after the game, and I saw the video of him sort of slapping the camera away. But according to this, Johnny Jackson told Colombian reporters, the photographers told Colombian reporters that he approached Martinez after the final whistle, and when the goalkeeper greeted another player, they captured the footage of him hitting the camera, in which it fell to the ground. But Jackson said that's not all he hit. He said, out of the blue, he slapped me. I felt angry, very angry. I was working just like he was. He was playing and I was shooting with my camera. He also sent a message to Martinez saying, Debo, my brother, how are you? I am Johnny Jackson, the cameraman you assaulted in the match against Colombia. I wanted to tell you it is all good, my brother. Everyone has lost a match in their life. The defeat clearly meant a lot to you, but look ahead, Debo. Debo is which is his name. Accord, which is Colombians Association of Sports Journalists, want FIFA to sanction Martinez. Its president, Faiver Hoyos Hernandez, said in a statement that Martinez attacked freedom of expression. This is what he said. As the journalistic authority in the country, Accord wants FIFA to produce an exemplary sanction against Mr. Emiliano Debo Martinez, who is no role model for new generations. That's some strong things coming out there. Giovanni Reina, he's going to be out for weeks with an injury. Borussia Dortmund head coach Nuri Sahin said he expressed his extreme sadness over Giovanni Reina having to miss a few weeks with this injury, with a groin injury. Speaking, Nuri Sahin said Gio Reina will be out. He has picked up an injury with the national team. So far, he's only played 280 minutes for Dortmund. He played 280 minutes for Dortmund in the first half of last season, and then he played only another 235 minutes for Nottingham Forest when he was loaned there in January. Nuri Sahin said, he came straight back from the national team and I found him extremely sad. Unfortunately, it will take a few weeks and then I hope that he can continue on this good path afterwards. Yeah, it's just not, Reina finds himself in a really difficult spot in his career with the fact that he's at Borussia Dortmund team that he can't really, get the next step with. And then now he's suffered a lot of injuries, and now on top of that now it's the groin, the dreaded groin. That's very, very difficult. This is an interesting one. Enzo Fernandez has been banned from driving for 6 months because of a motoring offense that he has in Wales, which I don't know what he was doing in Wales. Enzo Fernandez, he wasn't in court on Wednesday when he was sentenced. He was in Argentina in international duty. But apparently he's been found guilty because of something that happened earlier this year on 2 charges of failing to identify the driver of a Porsche Cayenne. The driver of the car ran a red light in the town of Llanelli. I don't know how to say that. It was a town in Wales in November, and then he was caught as well speeding in Swansea last December. It was actually proven that Fernandez was not. It was not proven that Fernandez was driving the vehicle, and honestly, I have a really hard time believing that Enzo Fernandez was randomly in Wales in November and also in Wales in December. It seems like in a situation where, maybe he was letting someone borrow the car, maybe he sold the car, I don't know. But that's very interesting developments there. And wow, it's tough, the sanctions in terms of driving in England. Wow. Mexico winger Cesar Huerta revealed that he actually had a failed transfer to Liverpool, saying Huerta said, there was an issue. I had my suitcase ready, but it fell through because of an issue. I know it's a train that only comes once. Puma's president, where Huesca is currently at, Luis Gonzalo, admitted the internal issues of the respective clubs that wanted Huerta prevented the deal from being finalized. It has nothing to do with the club or the player's intention. On the contrary, They recognize Huerta's qualities, but for circumstances relating to internal issues of the respective clubs that monitored him, it could not be finalized. Smells like League One being stingy with their players. Smells like that. And not League One, with Liga MX being difficult, being stingy with their players, making it difficult for them to make a move for Europe. They've really held back the development of Mexican soccer, and that situation really smells like that. But yes, guys, thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.